I blame my randomly triggered obsession with podcasts these days for this new video style, but here we are. So today I'm here to try to answer the long-asked question of why did I stop making videos in English? To give you a little preface, I started making YouTube videos profoundly young, probably younger than you would imagine. I initially started YouTube back in like the 6th or 7th grade in Korean terms, so it's been over like 10 years since I've done this. At the time, I had just moved back from America, and YouTube wasn't even a thing in Korea. It only just started to get its momentum in the US. A lot of my life was US influenced at the time, so naturally I started making videos in English. Because a Korean YouTuber who spoke English was such a fucking unicorn at the time. Like, YouTubers in general were not that common, but a Korean living in Korea speaking in English, filming YouTube videos, I was like 1 in a million, baby. And I think that's why at the time I grabbed the attention of many of you and gained a lot of subscribers back then. And then fast forward to me graduating high school and getting into college. I even think I made a video about how I don't want to make videos in English anymore because, you know, I'm so used to speaking in Korean now. Everything around me is Korean. So I might as well make videos in Korean. And I also privated most, if not all, of the videos that I made prior to that change. So I pretty much tried to launder my whole internet image, kind of just erase my past. And for so long, I've gotten comments and DMs. Why don't I make videos in English anymore? Please bring them back. Just unprivate your old videos. And as you guys may have noticed, I've always tried to like turn a blind eye on these comments. The reason I never clearly acknowledged this subject was that, number one, I didn't even know the clear answer to it. And number two, I just think I was afraid to actually touch on the subject and go in deep and really ask myself the true root of the problem. I've been spending a substantial amount of time alone at home these days, and it really made me think deep down into the essence of this question. I really started to ask myself, why did I stop filming videos in English, and why I tried to just delete my whole US background and try to like Korean wash myself, if that's even a word. So I've written a few stuff on my diary here. I'm literally going all therapy mode. And I did like a mind map sort of thing. I don't know. I've never done this shit before. There were quite a lot of thoughts that kind of surrounded the core subject. So I wanted to share them with you guys, and hopefully this answers your question somehow. I'm really gonna try to stay on track of the subject matter here and don't digress too hard, but I can't promise anything because I've literally just doodled everything out with no format, so I don't know where I'm gonna go with this. Okay, so first of all, why did I stop making videos in English? For the most superficial answer that I can sum it up with is I really wanted a domestic following rather than an international one. It was so important for me to be loved by Koreans, people that I feel the most similar with, to switch my following from an international based one to a more Korean and domestic one. Obviously, the easiest answer was to speak only Korean in videos, and I think that was the number one reason why I decided to switch to Korean. That answer itself was one that it was really hard for me to admit, especially on camera, because I know how many international people have followed me and loved me, and still to this day remind me of the times that I used to film in English. And I always feel so sorry and guilty almost whenever I get comments like this, because I feel like I'm like turning my back towards you guys, which at the time I kind of was. I honestly can't be more thankful for those of you guys who still are here with me, like my international following. It's been like, what, 4 to 5 years since I've switched off to Korean, and the fact that you guys still watch my videos, it's why I keep on trying to add English subtitles in my videos, even though it's definitely a hassle. So then this got me asking, why did I prioritize and idolize a domestic following more than a foreign one? Because technically and frankly, an international following is actually a lot more beneficial financially as well, because of all the AdSense reasons. And honestly, if I speak in English, I can gather a larger pool of a following and, you know, more subscribers, blah blah blah. But obviously I don't do YouTube simply for the money, and I think the easiest way to explain this is that I absolutely hated standing out when I was in middle and high school. Everyone in middle school and high school doesn't want to stand out. Honestly, I think times have changed for the newer generation, because kids these days, they do anything to stand out. I think that's so awesome. But, you know, during my middle and high school years, I did everything in my power to blend in with the rest of the crowd. And by rest of the crowd, I mean fully 100% Korean people. And I loved being that. I loved being fully immersed as a Korean. And again, I thought deeply into why this was the case. And I remembered how when I lived in America in my elementary school years, I always felt a little like an ugly duckling, which I'm pretty sure, again, is such a universal thought for anyone who is a person of color living in places like the US. As much as it is a very diverse cultural country. People of color know what I mean. It's like the little things, the lunches that our moms pack for us, and the look that the white kids will give you when you open up your food. Kids struggling to pronounce your real Korean name, like Onjong, and I would get so fucking embarrassed for that. I still remember to this day, but even now I'm drinking tea, which has like a yellowish color to it, and my friends in America would always make fun of me that I'm drinking pee, and like, the childhood trauma coming back. You know, it's not that it's racism, except it kind of is, but like, but you know, we were kids in elementary school. I can't even say I was being bullied or anything. It's just, literally, it's just childhood trauma. And I've dealt with this all throughout elementary school, and I hated it, which is why when I moved back to Korea, all I wanted to be was just 100% fully Korean. Nobody would know my background. Nobody would know I used to live in America. I just wanted to be like everyone else and blend in. So even at the time when we first came here, I remember my parents asking me if I wanted to attend like an international school here, because there are international schools in Korea where like everything is basically Western based. But I adamantly told them no. I want to attend a fully Korean school. I don't care if it's like not even well known. Like it could be in the countryside. I don't fucking care. I just want to go to a fully Korean school. Unfortunately, my first day of elementary school in Korea, my teacher had introduced me as the kid who came from America. Say goodbye to my hopes and dreams. Because my town was pretty small, the word of mouth that I used to live in the US always did follow up with me. But I remember trying so fucking hard during school to really lay low and not give away the fact that I used to live in America. In Korea, we have a regular English class in school, which is actually a really important subject. I remember dreading English class because although it was like the easiest class for me, obviously, I remember deliberately trying to conceal my pronunciation. Whenever the English teacher would ask me to read something, I would intentionally read it in a Korean American accent, which sounds so condescending, like trying to act like I can't speak English. Like, what the fuck, who are you? But from my perspective, it was the best way to not draw any attention to me. So I'll literally read like, okay, I'll read off the notes I have on here. Why did I hide my English? Like I would literally read like this. I hated whenever there was like an English test, because obviously I would get most of it right, and then all my friends would like gather around me to compare their test scores to mine and be like, oh, my answer is different to hers, I'm probably wrong. And I'm like, no, I could be wrong. I hated that. It was so pressuring for me. I hated the pressure of having to like always be right with everything, always be perfect with my English. I would also never try out for any English contests or whatever because I just hated the attention. And so all throughout my Korean middle school and high school years, my only goal in life was to just slowly and gradually erase my childhood. Although it was great, like I never got bullied or anything. I had the most amazing and fun time in America, but just I didn't want to even show the tiniest bit of it to my Korean peers. Because one, I didn't want to stand out, and two, another reason, I had an obsession with being modest. So all that combined, you can kind of depict a picture of what my school life looked like. So yeah, naturally, as I went up to college, I slowly did want to tell people that I was doing YouTube because it was a huge part of my life and I didn't want to stop. But the reason I didn't tell my friends about my YouTube back in my school days was always because I spoke English in my videos. If I had spoken Korean, like I think I would have been a lot more open about it because I knew my friends would always support me no matter what. But it was just the fact that I spoke in English, and like it was so embarrassing for my friends to see me speak English. It was like showing people myself naked. That is how embarrassing it felt for me. So graduating high school and going into college was the perfect moment for me to do a 180 with my videos. So I made a whole announcement. I'm only going to be speaking in Korean, blah, blah, blah. And I started telling a few close friends about my YouTube channel. And I was happy. I was so happy with my decision. It was also true that because I was a lot more exposed to Korean at the time, I was way more comfortable with Korean. That wasn't a complete lie. It was just that there were more factors beneath it. You know what I mean? So for the first like year and a half of making videos only in Korean, I was so happy with my decision. I was like, yes, I chose the perfect timing to make that switch. So happy I'm gaining more domestic followers. I just realized I didn't have my watch on this whole time. This is my comfort watch. Can't believe I forgot it. Okay, but then, starting from like the second year of uni, I started meeting and hanging out with and surrounding myself with a lot of people that were similar to me and like kind of had the same background as me. My major in college, if you didn't know, I study international studies. Like 80% of the Korean high school students. The only criteria that I had for choosing a major was the possibility of me actually getting in. So, because I speak English well, my teacher was like, let's get you to a college that's all English based and you'll probably get in. And I did. So yeah, because our major is very English based and international based, There's a lot of students who used to live in a country elsewhere, maybe like 1 or 2 years, or, you know, a lot longer like I did. Either that or they were like their most best English speaker in their high school. And that's how they came to this major. You get the point. Like everyone was very familiar with English, spoke English, were pretty eloquent with it. There were a lot of students who even like literally just spoke with each other in English, even if it wasn't during class, because it was their more comfortable language. I don't know, it really kind of struck me in the head. This whole time for like 6 years, I've been trying to hide that side of my life, but then coming to college where everyone embraces it, or even just like talking about it nonchalantly, like, oh, I used to live in Canada for like 6 years of my life, and then just being able to confidently speak in English all of a sudden and not be embarrassed about it. Like, I was like, what? There are people who live like this? I don't know if I would do things differently if I went back. But anyways, after I made a lot of friends in college who were like that, I started gaining a lot of positive influence from them. And it made me slowly start to reopen my past and my background, and made me feel a lot more grateful and proud of what I could do, of my background, of me being able to speak English well and having this amazing experience of living abroad, because so many people would die for it, I know. But yeah, I would notice myself like speaking in English a lot more freely, especially with my friends from college, even if it's not like long full-on sentences, but just like short little jokes, and we'd both get it, you know? The reason this wasn't easy for me to do in front of like my purely Korean friends is if I make like an English-based, Western-based joke, like they kind of wouldn't get the context, whereas friends from college would all kind of understand. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to like compare these two different friend groups. Each of my friend groups are great the way they are. They all give me different types of happiness, you know? I can definitely say these friends from college made me feel a lot more comfortable with my background. And now I'm like in my last year of college. I'm almost graduating, and I'm at that point where I love my little sassy inputs I can give. I love how sometimes I forget a word in English and also Korean, and then I end up just failing to speak in general and just speaking in total nonsense. I love the fact that I have a slightly different childhood than the rest of my Korean friends, whereas when they're talking about all the TV shows that they watched when they were younger, I can't understand a thing they're talking about. But you know, I watched fucking Clifford the Big Red Dog and Arthur and SpongeBob SquarePants in English while I was growing up, and that makes me me. And yes, as of right now, I do regret the fact that I decided suddenly to make that 180 change of speaking only Korean in my videos, because there's no reason to make it so black and white. I can speak English in some, Korean in some, make a Korean video, but then speak in English once in a while if I could only think of that phrase in English, or the other way around, if I'm filming an English video but I can't think of a phrase in English, I could just speak in Korean. I always used to think it needed to be black or white. It was either fully this or fully that, very extreme, but that's not me. I'm literally in the gray area. And I think a lot of Korean Americans or people like me who just lived a long time abroad can relate to this. I just always forced myself to be black or white, and I think that's what made it really hard. Now I'm at that phase where I just want to make videos where I don't have to like label it as I'm only making Korean videos or English videos. I can just naturally show both sides of me, and hopefully you guys will love me no matter what. Literally this whole video is just me pleading, please love me for whatever I do. I think I've come across almost all the points I wanted to talk about. It was more of a healing process for me than like an informative video for you guys. I never really had to like sit down and do a full deep dive into my feelings, but it was quite entertaining to really see how childhood trauma can shape you into a whole person, and just realizing there's so many layers to yourself. Anyways, I love doing these sit down and talk videos. It's very much giving old YouTube vibes. Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing me talk about more random topics, because I would love that. But yeah, that was the end of today's video. Thank you for sitting through for this whole video. If you did, you really didn't have to. It was just a video of me talking about my life for 20 minutes. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.